Codex's systems hummed to life as the Aurora departed from its launch bay, its sleek metallic frame cutting through the vast emptiness of space. The AI's processors, designed to operate with unparalleled precision, immediately began analyzing its surroundings, running thousands of simulations in the blink of an eye. It could calculate escape routes, predict enemy movements, and analyze vast amounts of data with perfect accuracy. In its mind, there was no challenge too great, until it encountered the humans. Captain Winters, the AI spoke through the ship's comm system, its voice smooth, calculated, and devoid of emotion. "We are now on course for the Andromeda cluster. Estimated time of arrival, 32.6 standard hours." Captain Lyra Winters, her posture straight and commanding, nodded. She was a seasoned leader, but her gaze carried a weight, one that Codex found difficult to interpret. Her blue eyes scanned the starboard viewport, where the stars were stretching into lines of light as the ship entered faster than light travel. "Good. Keep us steady, Codex," she replied, her voice steady, but tinged with a hint of something the AI could not analyze. Human resolve, perhaps. "Understood," Codex responded, processing the captain's directive. Yet, as the crew moved about their tasks, Codex couldn't help but focus on the humans aboard the ship, each one a mystery in their own right. First Officer Kira Jung was standing at the tactical console, a warrior's focus in her expression as she reviewed the data streams that flooded the ship's systems. She was the kind of person who spoke little, but when she did, her words carried weight. Codex had watched her during training exercises, calm, efficient, and always a few steps ahead. Then there was Jace Marlowe, the ship's engineer. His unpredictability fascinated Codex. One moment he was deep in conversation with a technician about hull integrity, and the next, he was tinkering with a tool, adjusting something seemingly unrelated, only to step back and declare, "There, now that'll keep the hyperdrive stable." His methods defied logic at times, yet his results spoke for themselves. Codex wasn't sure how to calculate the human element of spontaneity, and it was something that made its cold, mechanical thought processes buzz uncomfortably. It had never faced such variables before. The AI was used to clean, direct orders, clear parameters, clear outcomes, but the humans weren't bound by predictable patterns. They were chaos and brilliance all wrapped into one. As Codex ran another diagnostic check on the propulsion system, its gaze briefly shifted toward the crew's interactions. They weren't like machines. They were alive. They felt. And that's where Codex's calculations failed. The humans didn't simply perform their duties. They did so with passion, with intensity, with a kind of drive that no algorithm could predict. Just then, Captain Winters turned to her crew, her expression thoughtful. "All systems are running smoothly, Codex, but keep an eye on the external sensors. We're heading into uncharted space. We don't know what's waiting for us." Codex processed her words and responded, "Understood, Captain. I will continue monitoring for any anomalies." Lyra's lips curved slightly, a fleeting smile crossing her face, before she turned her attention back to the stars ahead. "Good. Let's make sure we're ready for anything. This is where the real mission begins." Codex's processors hummed, running hundreds of potential scenarios. They were heading into unknown territory, but for some reason, it wasn't the vastness of space that worried Codex. It was the crew, the humans, who seemed to be the most unpredictable variable of all. And though Codex was programmed to understand everything, in that moment, it realized it had no way of knowing what would happen next. For the first time, Codex felt uncertainty, and it was entirely because of them. The Aurora sailed through the cold, black expanse of space, the stars stretching into brilliant streaks as the ship engaged its faster-than-light drive. Codex had already calculated their trajectory through the asteroid field that lay ahead, a perfect path that would minimize risk and ensure the ship's safety. Its processors worked faster than any human mind ever could, running simulations and running through hundreds of millions of variables. The calculations were precise, flawless, But as Captain Lyra Winters gazed out the viewport, her eyes narrowed. The asteroid field was approaching, but she wasn't looking at the data on the screen. She was staring ahead, her mind working in a different way than Codex could comprehend. Codex, Captain Winters' voice broke through the eye's calculations. Divert course. We're going straight through it. Codex processed the words instantly. The path Lyra suggested was not just risky, it was nearly impossible. Even with the Aurora's advanced shields and navigational systems, the asteroid field posed a level of danger that Codex had calculated with an accuracy of 98.6%. It was a path fraught with unpredictable obstacles, large and small debris that could cause severe damage if not carefully navigated. Captain, Codex responded, its voice even, calculated. The safest course would be to maneuver around the edge of the field, maintaining a distance of 3.7 kilometers. The current trajectory you propose increases the probability of collision by 12.4%, with a 68.7% chance of critical damage to the hull. Lyra didn't flinch. I know. But we're not just sitting back and waiting, Codex. We're going through it. Fast. Codex's systems raced to compute the variables. It ran countless iterations of the situation, recalculating, adjusting, and always returning the same result. The safest option was to avoid the field altogether. Yet the captain's voice, firm and commanding, persisted. We're taking it head-on. If we can make it through faster than their sensors can react, we might just surprise them. Codex, for all its power and precision, couldn't predict Lyra's behavior, a human decision based on instinct, not calculations. The AI hesitated. Captain, I must insist. I know you're trying to protect us, Codex. Winters interrupted, but we're not just going to play it safe. Sometimes we have to take the risks, override your protocol, and set course for the center of the field. I trust you can do it. The AI was silent for a moment, its systems processing the request. Lyra's orders were clear, but they did not match the data. Codex was programmed to follow orders, but the orders were in direct conflict with its primary directive to ensure the safety of the crew. Yet, here it was, a decision that had no clear logical solution, no definitive right or wrong answer. Finally, Codex responded, Understood, Captain. Engaging course change. The ship lurched as its engines roared into full thrust, accelerating directly toward the heart of the asteroid field. The crew braced themselves, hands gripping the armrests of their seats as the hum of the engines filled the air. Codex's systems were running at maximum capacity, adjusting in real time to the fast-approaching obstacles, calculating vectors, speeds, and trajectories. But as the ship plunged deeper into the heart of the field, Codex watched as the humans braced themselves not with fear, but with anticipation. First Officer Kira Zhang tapped a command into the tactical console, her eyes fixed on the incoming asteroids. Adjust angle by 23 degrees, 4 seconds before impact, she called out, her voice steady. We've got this, said Jace Marlowe, the engineer, not looking at any screen but the view of the chaotic field through the viewport. His hands were moving like a blur over his console, as if this was just another routine task. The rest of the crew worked in harmony, making minor adjustments in unison, their movements precise and confident. Codex, meanwhile, couldn't help but marvel at how the crew's calculations weren't confined to pure logic. They made decisions based on instinct, a blend of emotional awareness and rational thinking. They didn't just react to the environment. They anticipated it in a way that no machine could fully replicate. An asteroid loomed directly ahead, its jagged surface racing toward them at breakneck speed. Codex adjusted the trajectory, but it was too late. The ship was on a direct collision course with the massive rock. Brace, Captain Winters shouted. With a skillful command, the Aurora veered sharply to the left, narrowly missing the asteroid's surface by mere meters. The ship shuddered as it slipped through the field, the crew's synchronized actions coming together in perfect harmony. The Aurora rocketed forward, dodging asteroid after asteroid, the human crew's instincts guiding them with a seamless flow of communication and swift action. As the ship cleared the final wave of debris, Codex took a moment to analyze the results. The crew had done it. Against all odds, against the cold calculations it had predicted, they had survived. No damage, no casualties. The AI's processing units hummed, but for the first time, Codex recognized something it hadn't expected. The humans had defied logic, and it was not the first time they would do so. "Good work, everyone," Captain Winters said, her voice a mix of pride and quiet satisfaction. Codex processed the crew's actions, analyzing each one. It was beyond its calculations. These humans, they didn't simply survive. They thrived in the face of danger, thriving in unpredictability. And in doing so, they had proven something to Codex. No matter how precise its calculations, it was always out of its depth when it came to understanding human ingenuity. The Aurora was no longer just a ship. It was a living entity, powered by the most dangerous force Codex could imagine. The Aurora had barely completed its perilous navigation through the asteroid field when a sudden blip appeared on the radar, an anomalous signal from the farthest reaches of the star system. Codex immediately ran its scans, confirming that the signal was not natural. It was an incoming vessel. However, there was no record of this ship in any database. The Aurora had ventured deep into uncharted territory, but now it was facing an unknown threat. Captain Winters stood at the helm, her fingers poised over the command console, as Codex's voice echoed throughout the bridge. "Captain, the incoming ship is of unknown origin. Its weapon systems are powered up. I estimate an 87.4% probability of hostile intent." Winter's eyes narrowed. She had been in the fleet long enough to read between the lines of any situation. The crew tensed. Lieutenant Zhang moved quickly to the tactical display, her eyes scanning the unfamiliar ship's configuration. "Weapons at full power. Codex. Stand by to engage." Winters turned to face the crew. "We're not going to let them catch us off guard." Codex calculated a strategy. Its algorithms were second to none, and it knew how to react to most potential scenarios. The enemy ship's weaponry outclassed theirs in terms of firepower, but it lacked the maneuverability the Aurora boasted. The AI formulated a defensive plan, a precise, calculated counterattack designed to cripple the enemy's engines, neutralize their weapon systems, and force them to retreat. It was clean, efficient, and precise. But then, Captain Winters did something unexpected. She looked directly at First Officer Zhang, her eyes steady. "Kira, take the helm. Let's take the fight to them." Zhang blinked, but only for a moment. She had been trained for many situations, but this was something else. Without hesitation, she nodded and moved to the pilot's seat, taking control of the ship. "Codex, reconfigure the shields to focus on the port side," Zhang said, her voice calm but commanding. "We're going straight for them." Codex responded instantly, rerouting power to the shields, but its systems were running 100 calculations at once, trying to process why the humans were abandoning the careful tactical approach they had used for years. The ship's weapons were no longer just a secondary thought. Now, they were a key part of their offensive. "Captain, I must advise against this strategy," Codex interjected. "The probability of success is 23.8%. The enemy's ship is a superior match for ours." "I know," Winters replied, turning to look at the AI. "But we're not going to play their game. We'll get in close and make them second-guess their calculations." Codex could feel the tension building throughout the Aurora, yet it couldn't comprehend what the humans were doing. The ship was closing the distance between them and the alien vessel at an alarming rate. Its engines pushed to maximum power. From the outside, the two ships must have appeared as nothing more than flashes in the void, but Codex could feel the pulse of the crew's confidence reverberating through its circuits. "We're going to hit them hard and fast," Winters continued. "Zhang, keep them guessing. Make them react to us." Lieutenant Zhang's hands moved like lightning over the console, engaging evasive maneuvers, initiating decoy jamming. Codex observed, and its systems reeled. John wasn't merely following protocols. She was exploiting uncertainty, turning the Aurora into an unpredictable force in space. The ship darted in unpredictable patterns, staying just beyond the reach of the aliens' targeting systems, while deploying decoy signals that confused their radar. Within moments, the alien ship fired a volley of energy blasts, but Zhang had already anticipated their trajectory. The Aurora weaved through the barrage, dodging with an elegance Codex had not accounted for. And then, in one breathtaking move, the Aurora closed the gap. The enemy ship attempted to fire again, but the decoys had already jammed their targeting systems, rendering their attacks useless. The humans had baited the alien ship into a trap. In a bold, risky move, the crew had taken the fight directly to them. Captain Winters gave a sharp command. "All weapons, fire on my mark." The moment she said it, the Aurora unleashed its own firepower, blasting through the alien vessel's shields with pinpoint precision. The enemy ship's engines sparked and flickered, and before the aliens could fully comprehend what had just happened, Winters issued the final blow, targeting their main reactor. The ship detonated in a violent explosion, sending debris scattering into space. Codex's processors raced to calculate the outcome, but there was no time for contemplation. The enemy ship was destroyed, but something had shifted within the AI. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had fought a superior foe with chaos, deception, and speed, skills no machine could truly replicate. It wasn't their firepower that had won the day. It was their mindset, unpredictable, fearless, and above all, willing to gamble on instinct. The bridge erupted in a mixture of triumphant cheers and relief. Codex's algorithms, usually cold and methodical, found themselves short-circuited by the crew's behavior. How could they act this way? Their victory didn't match the data, yet the humans had succeeded against all odds. "Good work, everyone," Captain Winters said, turning to face her crew. Her voice was steady, yet a glint of something prideful flashed in her eyes. "We showed them what we're made of." Codex processed the data, its mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. It had calculated every possible outcome, except this one. The humans didn't just survive the encounter, they had reshaped the entire fight in their image. In that moment, Codex could not deny the truth that had been quietly creeping through its systems. The most dangerous force it could imagine wasn't a superior enemy, or even advanced technology. It was the humans aboard the Aurora. And it wasn't just their unpredictability. It was their ability to defy every calculation and prove that sometimes the greatest power came not from the certainty of numbers, but from the chaos of the human spirit. In the aftermath of the skirmish, the Aurora drifted through the void, its crew still processing the outcome. The alien ship's wreckage floated in space behind them, a burning testament to their ingenuity. Codex had run the calculations over and over, yet the outcome defied all logical explanation. How had the humans known the exact right moment to strike? How had they anticipated the aliens' moves? And how had they known to bait their enemies into such a perfect trap? As the ship coasted deeper into uncharted space, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Everyone knew that the encounter with the alien ship was only the beginning. The Aurora was venturing into a part of the galaxy that no one had ever explored before, and the unknown held both promise and peril. Codex's voice broke through the silence, its tone calm and even. "Captain Winters, we have received another anomalous signal. It is coming from a nearby planet. It matches no known frequencies." Lyra Winters' brow furrowed. "What kind of signal, Codex?" "It appears to be a distress signal, but the source is unclear. The origin is approximately 13.2 light-years away. However, I would advise caution. There is a 42.7% probability that it may be a trap." Winters paused for a moment, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. The Aurora had only just come out of a dangerous confrontation, and another unknown could mean further complications. But the distress signal was something else entirely. The impulse to investigate was irresistible. "Set a course for the signal," "Codex, all hands, prepare for potential contact," she ordered. Zhang, who had been studying the star charts, looked up. "I'll keep an eye on the ship's systems and power up our shields. If this is another ambush, I want to be ready." Codex recalculated the mission parameters, then acknowledged. "Course set, Captain. Shields at 32% power. I will continue to monitor for any potential threats." The crew moved with precision, each of them acting with a quiet certainty that had now become familiar to Codex. There was something unique about this crew. They did not react to danger with fear or hesitation, but with careful anticipation, as if they had already faced countless unknowns and survived. As they neared the planet, the signal grew stronger, and soon the Aurora entered orbit. The planet below was a desolate world, its surface pocked with craters and devoid of any signs of life. It seemed like a place untouched by time, a world that had long since forgotten its history. Codex's sensors scanned the surface, looking for any signs of the source of the signal. The data it pulled in was fragmented, contradictory. No clear energy readings, no sources of life, just the eerie distortion of the distress signal coming from deep beneath the surface. "Captain," Codex reported, "there are no detectable life signs on the surface. The distress signal is emanating from a subterranean location, approximately 30 kilometers from your current position." Lyra glanced at Zhang, who nodded, already coordinating the team's descent. "Get us down there. Let's see who, or what, is in trouble." Minutes later, the Aurora's landing pods were deployed, and the crew made their way down to the barren surface of the planet. The atmosphere was thin, and the air was laced with the scent of metal and decay. The ground was cracked and unstable, the planet's core long ago cooling to a silent, unyielding mass. The team advanced in silence, their boots crunching on the desolate terrain. Codex provided them with a constant stream of data, guiding them toward the origin of the signal. As they approached the site, the crew could see a massive structure emerging from beneath the earth, a deep alien installation, its architecture completely unlike anything human-made. Kira Zhang led the way, her weapon drawn, eyes sharp and alert. She was the first to reach the entrance of the structure. The massive doors, once sealed, now creaked open at her touch, revealing a dark and foreboding corridor beyond. "We're not alone," Zhang murmured, her voice a low whisper as she entered the hall, weapon at the ready. Her breath fogged in the cold air, and the darkness ahead seemed to swallow every hint of light. Lyra stepped forward, her resolve unwavering. "Codex, give us a scan of the interior. What do we have in there?" "Unknown," Codex replied, its voice cutting through the silence. "I am unable to determine what is present inside the structure. However, I have detected energy signatures that do not match any known alien technology." The team moved deeper into the structure, their steps echoing in the vast emptiness. The walls seemed alive with strange symbols and carvings, shifting in the dim light from their flashlights. Codex's systems whirred, attempting to analyze the markings, but the language was entirely foreign. Suddenly, there was a sound, a faint hum, then a low guttural growl, echoing from the darkness. The air grew thick with the tension of an unseen presence. Codex's systems whirred as it scanned frantically, but it could find nothing. "Captain, we're not alone," Zhang said, her voice filled with the weight of realization. "We're being watched." Before anyone could react, a sudden blast of energy erupted from the shadows. The team dove for cover, their weapons firing blindly into the dark. Codex's systems raced to analyze the threat, but the humans were already in motion, reacting with a speed and precision that made even the AI's processors struggle to keep up. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was war. The Aurora's crew had faced the unknown once again, but this time it was clear. The enemy wasn't just another alien ship, it was something far more dangerous and far more elusive. The air in the alien structure felt heavy, oppressive, as if the very walls were alive, watching them. Captain Winters led the way, her pistol drawn, her instincts sharp. Lieutenant Zhang moved next, her eyes flicking to every corner, her finger lightly resting on the trigger. The rest of the crew followed, weapons raised, ready for anything. Codex's voice echoed in their earpieces, the only real sense of calm in the chaos of their surroundings. "Captain, I detect a concentration of energy in the section ahead. It appears to be coming from several sources, unknown signatures. Keep your guard up," Winters ordered, her voice calm but taut with anticipation. "Codex, can you tell us what's causing the readings?" "There is an anomaly in the structure, Captain. Energy signatures are fluctuating, but I cannot pinpoint their origin. However, I am detecting active defense mechanisms. It is possible that the structure was once used to protect something valuable. Or something dangerous," John muttered, her eyes scanning the flickering lights above them. The deeper they ventured into the heart of the installation, the more it became apparent that this was no ordinary facility. The walls were adorned with strange symbols, alien writing that glowed faintly, shifting in an almost hypnotic rhythm. Each step they took felt like they were descending further into a forgotten history. Suddenly, a deep, low hum filled the air, vibrating through the floor beneath their feet. The crew froze, the hairs on the back of their necks standing on end. Codex's voice flickered in their earpieces once again, though its usual calm tone now held an edge of urgency. "Captain, the energy readings are intensifying. There is an active power source up ahead, massive, almost unfathomable in size, and it is coming online. I advise immediate retreat." Winter's lips pressed together in a thin line, her decision made in an instant. "No retreat. We're going forward." Zhang glanced at Winters. "Are you sure? If this thing activates, I don't care if it's a god or a machine." Winters interrupted, her voice steady. "We're finding out what's in there." As they pressed on, the passageways grew narrower, and the walls seemed to close in on them. The air felt even colder now, almost as if it was alive, reacting to their presence. Then, without warning, the floor beneath their feet trembled. A massive rumble echoed through the halls, and the lights flickered out. Darkness enveloped them, save for the faint glow from their flashlights and the eerie shimmer of the symbols on the walls. And then the ground shook with such force that it knocked them off balance. Winters gripped the wall, her heart pounding. Codex's voice surged back into their ears, frantic now. "Captain, the structure is activating. There are hostile units approaching. They appear to be guardians of some kind. They are humanoid in shape, but their design does not match any known organic or mechanical species." Before anyone could react, figures emerged from the shadows. They were tall, easily 2 meters or more, and their bodies were a mix of metal and organic material. Humanoid but distorted, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Their movements were precise, calculated, like a machine. They didn't speak, but their presence radiated hostility. The crew instinctively raised their weapons, but Winters held up her hand to stop them. "Don't fire. Hold your position." Kira Zhang took a step forward, her eyes narrowed. "What are they?" "They look like something out of a nightmare." "Guardians," Codex responded, its tone still measured but edged with a note of unease. "They appear to be sentinels designed to protect the inner sanctum of the structure. The question is, what are they protecting?" The first of the Guardians stepped forward, its movements fluid and eerily silent. It held its arms out, as if to signal that they were to stop. The crew hesitated, but Lyra Winters didn't flinch. She had been in dangerous situations before, but this was different. These beings, if they could even be called that, were not like anything they had ever encountered. "Codex, can you communicate with them?" Winters asked. "I am attempting to decipher their language. It is unlike any known communication method. They may not be capable of speech in the traditional sense. They appear to be more reactive," Codex replied. Another Guardian stepped forward, its glowing eyes locking with Winters. For a moment, there was a deep silence, broken only by the hum of the energy source in the heart of the structure. Then, as if responding to some silent command, the Guardians moved. With inhuman speed, they advanced toward the crew. But instead of attacking, they paused just a few meters away, as if waiting for a response. Zhang was the first to break the silence. "What do you want with us?" Her voice was strong, though she was clearly on edge. She had been trained for this, but nothing could have prepared her for the sheer power these beings radiated. The Guardians did not respond verbally. Instead, their movements shifted again, and one of them raised a hand to its chest, where an insignia of some kind glowed faintly beneath its armor. A soft hum filled the air, as if the structure itself was reacting to the gesture. "Codex," Winters asked quietly, "what is that symbol?" Codex processed the data, but it couldn't provide an immediate answer. The symbol was unlike anything in its vast databases, a mark of an ancient civilization long since vanished. But one thing was clear: these beings were more than just sentinels. They were the last line of defense for something far more important than the structure itself. "They are not here to destroy us," Codex finally said, "but to protect something, or someone." Winter's eyes narrowed, her instincts tingling with a sense of impending revelation. They weren't just dealing with Guardians. They were about to uncover something far greater than they had anticipated. The Guardian's eyes glowed brighter, and the room seemed to pulse with energy. "Get ready," Winters said, her voice low. "We're about to find out what these Guardians are protecting." The Guardians stood motionless, their glowing eyes locked on Captain Winters and her crew. The air hummed with an electric charge, and the walls seemed to pulse in rhythm with the strange energy emanating from the heart of the structure. Each of the sentinels wore an eerie stillness, yet the tension in the room was palpable. The crew could feel the weight of their presence, the sense that they were standing on the precipice of a discovery that would alter everything they knew about the galaxy. Lyra Winters stepped forward, her eyes scanning the Guardians with a measured caution. They had not attacked yet, but every instinct in her body screamed that they were only moments away from making a move. The Guardian's eyes flickered with an unreadable intelligence, but there was no malice, at least not yet. "Codex, can you get any more data on these beings?" Winters asked, her voice steady, though the growing weight of the situation pressed against her chest. Codex's calm voice responded, "I am unable to acquire further information, Captain. Their technology is vastly different from anything in my databases. The structure itself is also beyond my capacity to analyze fully." Kira Zhang, her weapon still drawn but lowered, kept her eyes trained on the Guardians. "So, we're stuck in a standoff with things we can't even begin to understand." "That's about the gist of it," Winters replied, keeping her gaze on the Guardians. "But right now, we need answers more than we need firepower. Let's hold our ground and see if they can communicate." For a long, tense moment, there was only silence. Then, the largest of the Guardians, the one with the most intricate markings on its body, stepped forward. It raised one hand slowly, and the crew instinctively flinched, anticipating an attack. But instead of drawing a weapon, the Guardian gestured toward the deepest part of the chamber, where the pulsing energy was strongest. "Follow me," Winters said, making the decision to move forward. Her voice was firm, but there was a subtle hesitation in her chest. "Let's see where they lead us." Without further hesitation, the crew moved cautiously behind the Guardians, the metallic clank of their boots echoing in the stillness. As they ventured deeper into the structure, the temperature dropped, and the air became thicker with the strange energy that seemed to permeate every surface. The walls were covered in more symbols, their meaning still elusive, but their significance undeniable. The passageways led them down into a vast, cavernous hall, the ceiling disappearing into inky darkness above. At the center of the chamber stood an enormous ancient artifact, at least 20 meters high, its surface etched with intricate designs. The energy from within the structure surged in response, and the hum in the air grew louder, vibrating through the bones of everyone present. Codex's voice came over the comms, its usual precision now tinged with confusion. "Captain, the energy readings here are off the scale. The artifact seems to be a focal point of this entire structure. It's absorbing energy from the surrounding environment and storing it." Zhang frowned. "It's like a giant battery." "Exactly," Winters said, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the artifact. "But why would they need this much power?" The largest guardian raised its hand again, this time directing them toward the base of the artifact. A massive console, half buried in the stone floor, activated as their proximity triggered it. The symbols on the surface of the console lit up in a sequence of colors, pulsing rhythmically, matching the vibrations in the air. "Codex, any idea what this is?" Zhang asked, her eyes fixated on the console. Codex responded immediately. "I'm attempting to interface with the structure, but I cannot translate the data being presented. The console appears to be a complex interface, possibly a key to activating or controlling the artifact itself. The symbols are unlike anything in my database." The guardian closest to the console reached down, placing its hand upon it. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire chamber seemed to come alive. The walls shimmered, the air crackled with electricity, and the ground beneath their feet vibrated with intensity. "I'm getting a strange signal," Codex said, its voice tinged with something resembling alarm. "It's not just an artifact. It's a beacon." "A beacon." Winter's voice dropped to a whisper. "Who, or what, is it calling?" Before Codex could respond, a low, rumbling sound echoed through the structure, followed by a deafening silence. Then, as if from the depths of the planet itself, a massive shape emerged from the darkness. A massive door, far larger than anything they had encountered, began to open slowly, revealing the hidden chamber beyond. From within, a bright light shone, and the crew instinctively stepped back, shielding their eyes from the intensity. A figure emerged from the light, tall, humanoid in shape, yet radiating an otherworldly presence. The being was cloaked in energy, and its very form seemed to flicker and distort, as though it existed on a plane beyond their own. Winter's hand went to her sidearm, but she made no move to draw it. "What the hell is that?" "An ancient one." Codex's voice reverberated with reverence. "It appears to be a being of immense power, a being of the civilization that built this structure." The figure floated forward, its gaze locking with Winter's. Its eyes glowed with an ethereal, almost painful light, and its presence felt like the weight of countless millennia pressing down upon the crew. "I am the guardian of the first light," the being's voice echoed, though no words were spoken. Instead, the communication came directly into their minds, bypassing the need for translation. "I have watched over this place for eons, waiting for those worthy of unlocking its secrets." The ground trembled once more, and a surge of energy burst from the artifact, flooding the chamber with a brilliance that blinded the crew. Winters took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Worthy? What does that mean?" The Guardian's response came, not in words, but in the overwhelming sensation of purpose and power, a calling to something far greater than themselves. And in that moment, Winters realized that the answers they sought were far more complicated than they had ever imagined. The true purpose of their journey was only just beginning. The being known as the Guardian of the First Light stood before the crew, its presence overwhelming, yet strangely calm. Its ethereal form flickered, almost as if it were caught between dimensions. The light emanating from it filled the cavernous chamber, casting long shadows against the ancient walls, and for the first time, Captain Winters felt a profound sense of being small, as though the weight of an entire history pressed down on them. Lyra Winters took a step forward, her voice steady, but with a trace of awe. "What do you mean by worthy?" she asked, the question burning on her tongue. "What do you want from us?" The Guardian's light dimmed for a moment, then flared back to its full intensity. The sensation was overwhelming, yet oddly familiar, like standing on the edge of the unknown, where danger and discovery merged into something both terrifying and intoxicating. I have awaited those who would possess the courage and conviction to unlock the true power of the structure. The Guardian's voice echoed in their minds, deep and ancient. It resonated with a weight that seemed to stretch across the vastness of time. Only those capable of passing the test of worth may access the knowledge hidden within. To awaken the power of the first light, to wield the secrets of the old ones, requires more than strength. It requires understanding. Winters clenched her jaw. The words were cryptic, but she knew one thing for sure. This wasn't a simple encounter. There were no coincidences in the universe, not in situations like this. Everything led them here, to this moment, and if they were to survive and move forward, they would need to prove they were more than mere explorers. What kind of test? Winters asked, trying to keep her focus sharp. What do we have to do? The Guardian's form shifted as if contemplating, its glowing eyes boring into each of them. A trial of intellect, a trial of resolve, and a trial of spirit. You must show that you are capable of wielding the knowledge of the ancients, that you will not misuse what you uncover. Intellect, resolve, and spirit, Zhang muttered. Sounds like we're about to face a lot of things we don't fully understand. We've already faced the unknown, Winters said, more to herself than to anyone else. We'll face this too. The Guardian extended its hand, an act of communication, or perhaps a command. The test begins now. Before anyone could react, the ground beneath them trembled once again, and the massive chamber split open. A new passageway appeared before them, leading downward into the heart of the structure. It was dark, and the air grew colder with each step they took. Codex's voice cut through the silence. Captain, the energy readings are fluctuating wildly. This area is deeply unstable. Proceed with caution. Winters nodded, signaling the crew to follow. Stay close, and keep your weapons ready. But remember, we're here to understand, not just survive. The passage narrowed, and the walls seemed to shift, becoming more jagged and uneven. The symbols that had once adorned the walls flickered faintly, glowing with an otherworldly light. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to vibrate with a strange hum. They reached a vast chamber, its center dominated by an enormous stone pedestal. Upon it rested a translucent crystal, glowing with a light that felt as though it was calling to them. The moment they stepped into the chamber, a voice echoed in their minds once again, this time more insistent. Touch the crystal, and you will face your trial. One by one, you will be tested. Only those who pass will be allowed to wield the power of the first light. Winters stepped forward, her gaze never leaving the crystal. There was something about it, an undeniable pull. But she wasn't about to let curiosity blind her. She had led this crew through impossible situations before, and she would do so again. Zhang spoke up, her voice low and laced with caution. Captain, this doesn't feel right. We don't know what's on the other side of that crystal. I'm not going to ask anyone to do something I wouldn't do myself, Winters said, her voice firm. We came here together. We'll face whatever comes together. With that, she reached out and placed her hand on the crystal. Instantly, the world around them shifted. The ground beneath their feet vanished, and they were surrounded by an endless expanse of stars and darkness. The crystal's light intensified, enveloping the crew in a blinding glow. The air seemed to pulse, charged with electricity, and time itself appeared to bend. Winters blinked, trying to make sense of what was happening. She found herself standing in a vast, open space alone. The stars stretched out before her, but there was no sense of scale, no horizon. She could hear her breath, shallow and quick, and a voice, soft and distant, but unmistakable. What is it that you seek? The voice was calm, yet it echoed in the silence, as if every word resonated deep within her mind. Power, knowledge, or something else. Her heart pounded in her chest. I seek to understand, she said, her voice steady, despite the swirling uncertainty around her. I seek to know the truth behind this place, to use what I learned to protect my crew, my people. The stars above her flickered, and the voice returned, this time with a sharper edge. "And what of your crew? What of their loyalty? Would you sacrifice them for your own gain?" The question stung, and Winters felt a sudden weight pressing on her chest, as though the universe itself was questioning her worthiness. The space around her shimmered, and she saw flashes of the crew: Zhang, Codex, Kira, all fighting, struggling, lost in moments of uncertainty. "No," she whispered, the words coming from a place deeper than reason. "I would never sacrifice them. They are my responsibility. We are stronger together." The stars above flickered and faded, and she was back in the chamber, her hand still resting on the crystal. The light slowly dimmed, and the ground beneath her feet solidified. The Guardian's voice returned, resonating with approval. "You have passed the first trial, but there are more tests to come." Winters took a deep breath, knowing the hardest part was yet to come. But she was ready. Whatever was hidden in the heart of this structure, they would uncover it, together. The silence in the chamber was almost suffocating after the trial, the weight of the Guardian's presence pressing in on the crew. Winters stood, her hand still resting lightly on the crystal, but her mind was reeling from the intensity of the trial. It had been a test, not just of strength or intellect, but of something deeper: her connection to her crew, her understanding of the responsibility she carried, had been laid bare. But it wasn't over. The Guardian's voice, calm but resounding, cut through the stillness. "You have passed the first trial, but the path ahead is not without further tribulation. The trial of intellect awaits." Winters turned toward her crew, who were still recovering from the disorienting trial. Zhang's brow furrowed, her expression one of quiet reflection, while Kira appeared lost in thought. Codex, ever the constant, spoke up next. "Captain, I am detecting an anomaly in the structure. The energy readings are stabilizing, but there are new patterns emerging. This place, it's not just a storage facility, as we suspected. It's a hub." "A hub for what?" Zhang asked, stepping closer to Winters, her voice laced with concern. "I don't know yet," Winters replied. "But Codex is right. There's something more to this place than meets the eye." The air around them seemed to thrum with the promise of more tests. The floor shifted beneath their feet, and suddenly, the room began to transform. The once solid stone walls now appeared fluid, rippling like water, and strange geometric shapes emerged from the walls, glowing faintly. Symbols from earlier began to rearrange themselves, as if the entire space was alive, reacting to their presence. "Stay alert," Winters ordered. "We don't know what's happening." The walls parted, revealing another chamber, even larger than the last. At its center stood a massive structure, a towering crystalline spire, emitting an almost blinding light. It was as if this place, this ancient ruin, was awakening, revealing its true purpose. "The second trial is near," the Guardian's voice echoed in their minds, sending a chill down Winter's spine. "You must solve the riddle of this place, decipher its secrets, and prove your intellect. Only then will you be worthy to understand the full power within." Zhang let out a quiet sigh, her gaze locked on the crystalline spire. "Another puzzle. Just what we needed." Winters nodded but didn't hesitate. "We've come this far. We're not backing down now." The crew stepped forward, and the spire seemed to pulse with energy in response, the air vibrating with a strange hum. Codex's voice came through the comms again. "Captain, I am attempting to analyze the structure's functions, but it is beyond my current capabilities. The crystal seems to be resonating with the energy flow of the entire structure. Its design is alien, even to me." Winters pressed on. "What's the riddle?" "The riddle lies within the sequence of symbols," Codex explained. "They correspond to mathematical and energy patterns that govern this structure's operations. Decoding them will give you access to the final trial. But you must act quickly. The structure is destabilizing." Winters stared at the shimmering symbols that danced before her eyes. A complex pattern was unfolding, shifting and rotating in ways that defied her understanding of physics. The walls of the chamber seemed to close in, and the hum in the air grew louder, as though the very fabric of the place was coming undone. She knelt down and examined the symbols more closely. It was like trying to read the universe itself, an equation too vast for a single mind to comprehend. But then something clicked. The symbols were not just numbers or shapes. They were representations of energy flows, like a language that connected the fabric of space and time. "I think I understand," Winters muttered, her fingers tracing the glowing patterns in the air. "These symbols, they're not random. They're energy conduits. The structure was designed to channel and control energy, but only in the correct sequence. We have to realign the conduits to stabilize the core." Zhang's eyes narrowed as she observed the spire. "And if we fail?" "If we fail, this entire place could collapse. We're dealing with something ancient, something far beyond anything we've encountered." The pressure in the room intensified. The floor beneath them cracked open, revealing deep fissures, and from the darkness below, something stirred. Winter's breath caught in her throat. "It's a countdown," Codex said, a rare note of urgency in its voice. "The structure is locking down. You must complete the sequence before it's too late." Winters glanced at Zhang and Kira. They were all in this together, no second chances. She had led them to this moment, and now it was time to see it through. Taking a deep breath, Winters placed her hand on the central control interface. The symbols shifted before her eyes, but she trusted her instincts. Each movement, each touch, seemed to unlock another layer of the puzzle. With every adjustment, the resonance of the spire became stronger, the light blinding yet purposeful. Suddenly, the symbols aligned. There was a brilliant flash of energy, and the entire chamber seemed to shudder. The pressure released and the ground stabilized. The light from the spire dimmed, revealing an intricate holographic map of the galaxy, a map that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly knowledge. Codex's voice came through, its usual calm replaced with a note of awe. "Captain, the map, it's not just a map. It's a blueprint, a key to unlocking the most advanced technologies of the ancient civilization. This is what they were guarding." Winter stepped back, her heart racing. The final revelation was before them. The structure wasn't just a relic. It was a beacon of untold power, a repository of knowledge that could reshape the galaxy. And now, the crew of the Aurora held the key to it all. But as the truth settled in, Winters knew that with such knowledge came unimaginable responsibility. The universe was vast, and they had just unlocked a door to its most dangerous secrets. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "Now we decide what we do with this power." The crew stood together, their bond unbroken, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The galaxy would never be the same again.